So, Rebeeca, you're going on sabbatical. You're going to be leaving the country here for how many weeks?
72 days.
72 days. You're going to Europe, Eastern Europe, Southern Europe.
I'm calling it skirting the Mediterranean.
Okay. That's exciting. So you had to tell your clients this week.
Well, some of them have known for a long time, but we did real goodbyes last week and this week.
Yeah.
It's exhausting.
How'd that feel?
It was tough. One client, I teared up before they did. We've been working together a really long time. And their insurance is changing while I'm gone, so that was goodbye. So yeah, it's quite a process. And it's kind of like I made this choice, like it's not like anything has happened, so it feels even stranger.
Are you going to see your clients again once you get back to town?
Yeah, I've got some people in the books for once I get back. It feels really weird to schedule for September at the end of May, but that's what I'm doing.
Are they going to see other therapists?
I have been very thorough.
Yeah.
And I provided them with a list of many therapists, all therapists who've agreed to take my clients while I'm gone. So people are willing to work short term. And then I also suggested Talkspace if that felt like a better option to just, people just wanted to do a text-based relationship. But some people have refused. Like one person said to me, took me 1.5 years to call you. I don't feel like meeting anybody new.
Yeah.
So that's their choice.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just imagining for myself. I don't think it's ever happened to me as a client, but if it did, I would imagine that I would just say, I'll just take 2 months off and I'll see you when you get back. Mm-hmm. Did you, and you had some people like that too?
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah. I mean, some people, they travel during the summer, they're not worried. Other people thought they were going to feel that way, and then the crap hit the fan in the last few weeks, and now they're thinking about seeing somebody. So, yeah, I'm very curious to come back and find out what people did and how people did.
Are you worried that they're going to see another therapist and like them better, and then they'll realize that
I suck?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've had that worry or that hope with some people. Like maybe there's someone that's a better fit for you.
Interesting.
Yeah. So it's kind of it is very strange though to hand people off. And like, I just have had to say a lot, like this person isn't going to be me. It's going to be someone else. And I've been in that role before where I've taken people's clients over their break, and it's always been very strange. Because they're really used to working with somebody else and are still planning on working with that person. And you're just this kind of gap filler.
Right. Yeah. Well, I commend you for taking so much time off. It's so infrequent that therapists take any vacation time, I think, let alone that much vacation time, because we often feel like we don't deserve it, or that our clients will leave us, or that they will hate us, or I don't know, just various different barriers, I think, to taking any time off, let alone that much time. Have you ever taken off this much time before?
Well, I was thinking about my career. So not since I've been in private practice. There was a period when I came, I had worked in New York and I had come to Seattle, and then September 11th happened and the economy crashed and I could not find work. There was the period after my son was born. I feel like women, I don't know if men are given that option to take time after you have a baby. But I just stopped working at an agency and then slowly built work back up. Starting when he was 9 months, I started teaching and getting more and more work. But not since I've had a private practice. And I don't know, I know a couple people that have taken breaks for babies. I met someone that took a 3-year break and moved overseas and then built their practice back up. But this isn't what we do.
Yeah. And do you think it'll massively impact your income at all? Or
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we budgeted for this, but because as soon as I announced I was going on a break, anyone who was ambivalent was like, well, I'll just leave now. So there was that drop off.
Yeah.
And then, and I haven't been bringing new people in I'm down probably to half now.
Yeah.
And then when I come back, I'll probably be half of that. So yeah, it's a big deal. And I should say, this wasn't my idea. I didn't say like, I want a sabbatical. I'm joining my family.
Right.
I didn't think this plan up. I would have never done anything like this.
Actually, now that I think about it, I took off about the same amount of time to drive across the United States.
Really?
And this was after 9/11 too. And I had a very similar kind of situation where it was just like, well, I hope I have work when I get back. Because when you're, self-employed and you're getting clients, it's just like, and I think there's this mentality, or at least for me, when I first started my private practice, where every client in the beginning was such a blessing, and was like, oh my God, like someone wants to work with me. And that just becomes this rolling desperation from month to month, where I would just feel like, oh my God, like I hope all my clients think I'm valuable, because my income depends on this. And then the idea of just like walking away and hoping that it's there when you get back just seems very counterintuitive to that way of thinking when you're first starting out. But what I always try to tell people that are just starting out is that if they like you now, they'll like you when you get back. And if you're getting clients now, you'll get clients when you get back. Unless something really bad happens to the economy, which happens occasionally, then the intake or the number of clients coming in will probably be similar. Right. After 9/11, there was this huge, I don't know if people remember how weird our economy was at the time. I mean, the airline industry just basically shut down, and that affected all these other things in the stock market, and like there's all this uncertainty, and then the anthrax thing happened.
Oh, yes.
And there was just this ton of uncertainty, and the economy wasn't doing great. And especially for people like us who see people who might not necessarily need therapy, it's not like they're psychotic or bipolar or something per se. It's an expense they could probably pull back on if things are getting a little scary in the economy, or they lose their job, or they lose their health insurance or something. And then the same thing happened in 2008 after the housing crisis.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I mean, before 2008, I had tons of people in my practice that paid my full fee in cash. And after that, it took years. I would say maybe just in the last couple of years that's happened again.
Wow. Yeah, for me, I don't know why, but it just didn't occur to me that it would happen to me, but it did. And because in after 9/11, the economy wasn't, I was working a lot for the state at the time. I had a private practice, but I was just starting out and had a lot of other income that didn't really depend on the economy. And so I didn't notice it as much after 9/11, but in 2008, I was completely on my own. And I remember, do you remember the snowstorm in the end of 2008 in Seattle? There's this huge snowstorm that lasted for like a week or so.
Yeah, I think we weren't here for that.
Oh.
I think, yes.
But we had to get Christmas and New Year's.
We had to get back into Seattle after that snowstorm, and it was impossible.
Yeah, it was insane because it was a huge amount of snow, and we don't have any plows in Seattle, we have one or two plows. And then it became this weird, then it sort of melt and then freeze and then snow more. And the roads became these like off-road, huge like potholes of ice essentially. And where your car would bottom out, you wouldn't be able to drive even if you had chains or something. And so not only was the economy terrible at the end of 2008, but also the snow was so bad, clients were like, I can't make it to your house.
Right. Buses weren't running. And this was a big scandal, actually. The mayor at the time lost the re-election campaign because he used the plows to plow his house and the city council's house, the roads to their houses, and nobody ever forgave them for that.
Yeah, I didn't know about that. And it was, the snow was so bad that a bus, I think it was this same snowstorm, was coming down one of the hills from Capitol Hill and started sliding, and then
Went over the freeway
and hung over the freeway like a Superman movie, where
it was full of kids too,
and it was like teeter tottering over the freeway, and you could see it. I remember driving by, and I was like, "Oh, there's the bus that's like hanging out over the freeway," and I just remember that week thinking, I only have a couple clients scheduled anyway, and now they can't make it, and I can't charge them for that, and so I'm gonna have to move back in with my parents or something. Like it was like a few months where I was serious. I even think I asked my parents. I was like, "So, is it okay if things, because my savings are dwindling?" And then in 2009, I recovered real fast. I don't know why, but things just really took off. Actually, now that I think about it, your Mochi is seeing
she
something.
smells the cat, I bet.
Oh,
the cat has come to investigate.
Okay. Your dog was on my lap and then suddenly leapt like Superman across the room and is now smelling under my door. So I started the podcast at that time too.
Right, it's been 10 years.
Right. So it was kind of anyway. Let's introduce the podcast, and then maybe we could respond to some
talk
emails.
more.
Yeah. This is the Psychology in Seattle podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Kirk Honda. I'm a therapist, a professor, and a lap for Mochi. Who are you, Rebeeca?
My name is Rebeeca Bloom. I'm a licensed mental health counselor and a board-certified art therapist, about to take a break from that identity and be a world traveler instead.
Do you want to talk about some of the places you're going to go?
Yeah. Well, I'll talk about how I'm getting ready.
You fly tomorrow, right?
I fly Monday.
Oh.
Fingers crossed. Connection in Oakland. Everyone keep their fingers crossed. So we are doing Spain, Portugal, Croatia, maybe Romania, maybe not. And we'll do Istanbul and then Turkey, the beachy part. And so to prepare myself, I've done a couple things. I've made a 4-hour playlist of the music of that region, listening to flamenco. Also, Turkish flute music is amazing. And some current dance music coming out of those regions. That's been helpful for me. And then I've been listening to a podcast called The History of Rome, of the history of the Roman Empire. Have you listened to that one?
I think I have. Who is the host?
I can't remember, but there's 4 million episodes, and they're like 20 minutes. So
he goes through everything.
Yes.
Yeah, I think I have listened to that one. Yeah.
So on that podcast, I knew that the place that we're going in Split, Croatia, it has been advertised as the summer palace of the Roman Empire, but it turns out it was like Emperor number 3. It was his retirement palace, and he moved there to grow cabbage. So I'm feeling really knowledgeable about the area, and I want to get into the history of the area. Like in Hvar, Croatia, we'll go to one of the oldest inhabited caves in the peninsula area there, where they found the earliest known petroglyph of a boat.
Earliest known petroglyph of a boat.
Yes.
How old would it be?
It's like 5,000 or 6,000 years old.
Yeah, I went to Santorini, which is, in that region, and they had a ruin with things that were super old. There's like the Mediterranean, some say is the birthplace of civilization, because of the way that the agriculture sort of took to that, and sort of animals and trade and everything. And that whole region right on, there, and then you go to Greece, and then you go to Crete, and you go to the Fertile Crescent, and the things there are ancient.
Yeah.
and preserved, which is really interesting.
Yeah, and then the other thing we hope to see in Turkey is there are these names, there are vowels and consonants that I'm not used to seeing together, and so I can never remember the name. I think it's Celira, Celira in Turkey. And the beaches there, the leatherhead turtles have been laying their eggs there for 40 million years.
Oh my God.
And fingers crossed, if we let go of Romania, we'll be there when the eggs hatch. And I think that would be one of the most amazing experiences of my life.
Yeah. Well, post pictures.
I will.
And you can post them to the Facebook page and maybe to the fan page. There's a lot of people on the fan page.
Okay.
So this is an email from an anonymous patron that I want to run by you, Rebeeca.
Okay.
It's a bit of a long one, but I think it's worth it. I'm a licensed professional counselor at a college. The total enrollment for the college is less than 1,000 students. My boss, who is not a therapist, had this idea of a wellness program. I was put in a group that had to plan events to promote wellness for the students. I was assigned to a group with a hall director, a student activity director, and a residence life director. So these are not therapists. The big idea was to have a pool party for the students. During the planning phases, I brought up concerns with my participation since I might see my clients at the pool party. But my concerns were not heard. In fact, the hall director said, "Don't worry about it. This party is going to be dope." At the pool party, the students would be having fun in bathing suits, and the other students and at other events that I'm supposed to attend, the students are possibly drinking and or drunk because it's a college event. My colleague and I, who is the other licensed counselor on campus, do not feel comfortable with this. I don't like the blurred lines or role confusion. We are always fighting to be treated as professionals on our campus. We want to gain trust with students, and I'm concerned that when we slip into these non-counseling roles, it will negatively affect that trust and professionalism. For example, I had a session yesterday with a student who was able to share a traumatic childhood memory with me that he had been hiding for so long. He even dissociated in session. After the session, I thought about him and what it would do to our therapeutic relationship if later that night he saw me at a pool party or some other event in which everyone was getting drunk. Rebeeca, what do you think about this?
Well, small towns have their own set of rules. So so I know what the administration is trying to do. They're trying to do this kind of like embedded counselor thing where the counselor's just like, hey, part of the community. But it sounds like it's not a good fit for this particular type of therapist. I mean, I hear similar stories from my friends who are high school counselors who are expected to be like at the football games and all of that, just kind of like available. And
well, are they therapists like you and me, or are they high school counselors? You know what I mean?
Yeah, some people are in that role of like being the person that people.
But are they licensed? You know what I mean? Because I hate this language, too, because you can have high school counselors who are totally like us. They're licensed mental health professionals. And then you have high school counselors, same name, who aren't licensed clinicians. They are high school administrator advisors, kind of people. And they might counsel, quote unquote, students about their problems, but they're not mental health professionals,
right?
Who have to follow ethical codes and stuff.
Yeah. I know people in small towns who've been in this situation before where they're asked to wear multiple. I mean, I would say this is a situation where you're asked to wear multiple hats. Clearly, this person isn't comfortable with that. But I'm curious, and I'm not surprised to hear this happening in this type of environment.
What would you do if it was you?
I would probably go and not be in my bathing suit and not stay long. I mean, I would say like, hey, can I be in charge of setup? And like stay a half hour or so and then be on my way.
Would you? So it sounds like you would feel similar to her and try to opt out, kind of.
Yeah, but I'm not in that situation, but I can see what they're up to. And the idea is, it's very difficult for people to understand our work and what it takes to build safety. I mean, that's one of the interesting conversations I just had with my friend who's a master carpenter. And she said, your work is so weird. Like, I can just leave a job and like hand it over to someone else and they can finish up those cabinets. But our work doesn't work like that. Like,
right.
Nobody's going to like jump into a new place of trust with this new therapist.
Right.
So
it sounds like you're kind of sympathetic to the request from administration that you kind of, I mean, I don't know if I'm reading into it, but it sounds like you're thinking, well, I can see the benefit of having a wellness program in which everyone participates and tries to create community or something like that.
Right. I would just ask for limits on it. I mean, that was true in my college too. They had an anti-drinking program and the therapist would show up from time to time. So I think sometimes in these small environments, you're asked to wear multiple hats. They can get complicated.
What if they're in a humongous city like New York or Boston or something?
I would hope there would be I think when I say small environment, I mean the school itself is small.
Right.
Whereas, at a bigger college, you've got more people to do more jobs.
I see.
But I would also say, like, I know my friends who work in the military, it's kind of similar. Like, you're kind of around and they have you doing, you might be like part of the family drop-in hour or,
Well, for me, I feel similarly to you, Rebeeca, but I am more incensed by stuff like this. I have run into this before personally, and when I was a novice therapist, I would just give in because I didn't know any better or I didn't have the power or whatever. And later career, when people ask me to do stuff like this, I very quickly tell them, would you like me to lose my license? Because that's what you're asking me to do. Mm-hmm. Would you like me to harm my patients? Because I'd like that to be on the record that you're asking me to risk treatment of individuals in terms of their mental health. That's what, if you're asking me to do that, would we like to document this request right now? Like, I have no problem telling people that. Like, I've been running into this thing recently at the university where the higher ups, there's a student who is underperforming. And we have policies on the books that very clearly delineate exactly what needs to happen in order for the student to graduate. And if they don't pass those thresholds, then they don't get to graduate. I assume every training program has protocols and policies and thresholds like that, right? And so we are upholding our policy that we, indiscriminately apply to everybody. And rarely too. It's pretty rare that a student will get in a situation like that. So one, because it's not rocket science, and two, we tend to get a pretty good pool of applicants of people who are working really hard and, they make it happen, kind of a thing. Anyway, so we as a program are upholding our end of the bargain of integrity, and from the administration, they're fighting us on it, which is weird. And it's just like, and I've been daydreaming about the blasting I'm going to give them the next time I get a chance. I'm going to say, so you want us to completely disregard our integrity and let everyone through the program without any thought about upholding standards or gatekeeping or making sure that everyone has competencies? Is that what you're asking me to do? Because I just like to put that on record that that's what you're asking us to do, because that's basically what they're asking us to do. That's not the way they're wording it, of course.
Right.
They're wording it like, well, let's take into consideration, and it's just like, what are we taking into consideration? Tell me what we're taking into consideration. We're taking into consideration that the student didn't meet the standards, and we're giving them a way to meet those. It's not like we're completely, stonewalling. We're saying, here's what you have to do. And the student doesn't want to do it. And it's like, well, then tough shit, that's weird that you don't want to do it, but okay, And so I'm just so fed up with people I don't know, just like not respecting other people's professions. And with a request like this, with the one this anonymous patron is writing about, it makes total sense that a small university would be like, okay, all of our workers, we're going to build community, everyone, there's no exceptions. Everyone's going to participate in it. Like, that makes sense to me. Mm-hmm. The fact that they don't understand that therapists have like a different kind of role with the students, and that therapists in general, I mean, another factor is like women therapists, I'm guessing, because like early on in my career, I got this vibe that, especially in family therapy, and especially because I was young, I got treated like I was a camp counselor or something sometimes, and then it wasn't terrible. I was like, well, I don't really care. I don't feel like I deserve respect, so I don't care. But sometimes there were times when I really wanted I really wanted to be treated like a professional, And so I started wearing suits to work. Like, can you imagine me wearing a suit every day to my agency job? I would wear a suit, like with a tie and stuff, because I wanted people to say, oh, that's a professional. He's not just a schlub, Mm-hmm. And
did it work?
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, maybe wearing a suit made me feel more professional or something, mm-hmm. and then I acted and felt more entitled to like being able to say, look, I am not a camp counselor. Mm-hmm. I am a professional mental health, worker. And that doesn't mean that you need to bow down to me, but it means that I have certain standards and ethical codes I have to follow. And I'm sorry about that. I'm not just a casual talker to children. I'm a professional, I have standards, and there's literally federal laws that I can be fined, $50,000 if someone complains to the feds that I did this or that. Mm-hmm. That
you were in your bathing suit at a. I mean, we're not even supposed to. There are some people that leave the room when their therapist walks in. Like, there's all kinds of stories. Like, you go to your favorite AA meeting, but one of your clients walks in. What do? Do you leave the AA meeting so that your client can have that meeting? Yeah. I mean, yeah, there are social situations that we're not supposed to be in with our therapist.
Right. I mean, there's ethical guidelines, and there are things that HIPAA won't really care about so much, but what this college is asking these two professional therapists to do is to, I mean, one, the ethical code of harming the client is definitely, in question. And exactly for the reasons she said. It's like, I have clients who are telling me things that are extremely personal that they've never told anyone before. If they see me at a pool party socializing with other students, and, are they now going to question whether or not they feel comfortable telling me extremely personal things later on?
So I would be curious, like, if this therapist was like at a booth with information, with pamphlets, would that feel better? Like, if they had a job at this party, right? Or is it just, being at the party without the job, with the expectation that they would interact like everybody else? Is that it? Or if they were there kind of representing the counseling center and then were on their way, would that be a better fit? If they were in role. Right.
And what effect it might have on her in terms of, I'm now watching my clients drunk and, making out with each other in the hot tub, or what, the way she did. I mean, it's college, for crying out loud. And it seems like they're trying to set up things with alcohol involved, mm-hmm. I remember college. And it might harm her. It might make it, not that that's necessarily an ethical thing in terms of our clients, but it might make it so it's harder for her to see the clients in the same way or something. I don't know. So here's my advice, and this is kind of what I said in the email, is that it is unethical. There can be exceptions, again, small town stuff. You could justify certain things or do certain practices, like tell all your clients, by the way, I'm going to be at this thing. Is that okay? You could even have them sign a consent saying it's okay. There are ways you can mitigate the potential harm to the clients. But it's so easily avoidable in some of the ways you're saying, like, I'll just do setup, or can I contribute in a way that doesn't mean that I actually have to physically be there while my clients are there? You know, could I coordinate everything, or could I get all the supplies, or could I advertise it all? You know, like there's probably it's easily avoidable in terms of like, you know, contributing somehow. The other thing is that I told her in the email is that you as a professional are responsible for your ethical codes. Your boss is not. So just because your boss asks you to do something when you go to the licensing board, you can't say, well, my boss told me to. Like, that doesn't fly. You are responsible for your ethical codes. Now, if it's some super harassment issue or something, I'm guessing that there would be some account for that, but at the same time, but it'd be a pretty rare situation, you know? So anyway, you have to uphold your ethical codes, which might mean really, really fighting back. I find that when you write a letter that is CC'd to a number of people and it quotes your ethical guidelines and quotes the consequences to you and potentially the institution of what could happen if a client decides to sue you and the university, I find that is highly motivating to upper management. They really do not want to get sued. And so, and it's a very easy lawsuit that can be easily avoided. And the other thing is that, and I've done this before, is I will sit down and really just explain the ethical codes to people, because why would they know? How would they know that?
Right. Tons of people don't know. This happened recently, something I posted about my trip on Facebook, and a friend said to me, like, you just told the whole world what you're doing. And I said, you know, because of my career, my Facebook account is pretty shut down. It's not public, you know, all that stuff. And she's a writer. Like, I don't think it ever crossed her mind that my career would impact my social media presence. Yeah, I mean, there's certain things I don't do.
Yeah. And so it's natural that other people don't understand that, because the rules that we have are really weird compared to other professions. And so I find that you just sit your boss down and just explain it. And again, I like your idea, Rebeeca, of just like saying, look, I can contribute in so many other ways. And honestly, if your boss doesn't listen, then I would go to their superior, or I would consult with your professional organization about what to do, and maybe ask them to write something up, you know, or talk to HR, honestly, because it's a little bit of a HR issue if you're feeling pressured to harm yourself and your clients because your boss isn't listening to you or something, you know. There's a lot of things you can do. And I mean, I've told this story before, but it relates, is that I was working at an agency and my boss was a therapist, and she was trying to drum up business for the agency. And so she was going to just pull all the files, the client files, and send a flyer to everyone in the that had an address, and be like, here's our other services, you know. And she said this during a staff meeting, and I was like, oh, well, that can't happen. So I raised my hand and I was like, well, we can't do that because I have clients who they're teenagers and they haven't told their parents that they're in therapy. And so we can't do that. And I thought for sure she'd be like, oh, of course, you're right. Thank you, Kirk, for reminding me of all of our ethical responsibilities of not harming human beings. Thank you, Kirk, for reminding me. It's obvious. You know, you just pointed out something obvious. And she was like, well, we're still going to do it. And I thought, what, am I in bizarro world here? Like, you're a therapist, and I just pointed out that I actually just told you I have clients who are still closeted in 1999 and are talking about the fact that they're closeted, and and they haven't even told their parents they're in therapy, and their parents are immigrants, and their parents are prone to violence. You know what I mean? Like, should we just pump the brakes? Or at the very least, I was just like, could we just identify some people that you shouldn't send this to? And she's like, no, it'll be fine. And I just thought, wow. So, I get it, and it's unfortunate. Anyway, let's take a break, and when we get back, let's talk about whether or not it's okay to Google your clients.
Ooh.
Okay, so we're back from the break, and I want to remind everyone to become a patron of the podcast. When you become a patron, you sleep better at night knowing you're supporting something that you really enjoy. So an anonymous patron wrote in, is it ever okay to Google a patient? I have done this when I have a patient who is a poor historian, and I'm looking to gain a clearer understanding of their legal involvement, but I wonder if this is unethical. Rebeeca, what do you think?
I think it is unethical to Google your patient.
How so? What ethical code?
I heard that if somebody contacts you to be your patient, you're not supposed to Google them to find out whether or not you like to make the choice about whether you want to see them or not.
But what ethical code do you think?
I don't know.
Yeah.
But I think you should probably not Google your patient if you feel they're a bad historian.
Why?
Because clients self-report, right? It's not, I don't know. Tell me the answer. I'm clearly fumbling around in the dark.
No, I agree. The notion, I don't know what sort of work this patron is doing. If they're doing anything akin to psychotherapy or counseling, I agree with what you're saying, Rebeeca, which is that just because someone, and the phrase poor historian kind of says a lot, right? It's something that agencies will, there's a culture among agency workers where it's like, oh, this person's a poor historian, meaning that the client isn't very forthcoming with history or even lies or something. But I want to remind everyone that counseling and therapy, for the most part, unless you have a specific role otherwise, is not an investigatory process.
Right. You have to tolerate what the client tells you as what you're going to get.
Right. And the notion that if someone's lying to you, you have to figure it out. Mochi really wants to up.
I know. You need to pick her up. That harness is like a handle. Oh, catastrophe. All right.
Come on.
Okay,
Mochi.
we're back. We're back in the game.
Okay. Is that the... now, if you have a specific role where you're like a parenting investigator or a, guardian ad litem or something, or a CPS worker for that matter. But if you're providing counseling services, a reminder to everyone that clients come to us voluntarily for help, and they ask us for help. They ask us for something. And if they want to lie to us and be a poor historian and deceive us, then that is up to them,
Well, I'm also thinking, what are you going to do with this information? So this client, you Google your client, you find out whatever, they grew up in Poughkeepsie when they said they grew up in Honolulu.
Yeah.
Then the next time they tell a Honolulu story, what are you going to say as the therapist? Like, yeah. I know you're lying. I know you grew up in Poughkeepsie.
Well, I think that's what some cultures propagate as the purpose of what therapy is, right?
Mm-hmm. To get to the truth?
Yeah, of I get this from supervisees who work in agencies. It's not an explicit role, that people talk about, but it's something that starts to proliferate through certain us versus them cultures where you have the clients against the, therapists against the clients. Like you have an agency where they specialize in child sexual abuse. And so you, as a therapist, work a lot with families who have had a family member abuse a child. And you work closely with CPS and with the prosecutor and whatnot. And you end up starting to think it's your role to get to the bottom of the facts of the abuse and to make the parents admit that they were a part of the problem, or that like I'll have some supervisees that will say, I suspect that the mother is drinking every night, but she just dances around it, or, because the kid will tell me that the mom is drinking every night, but when I talk to the mom, she doesn't want to talk about it. And I'm like, well, why do you think it's your job to make people talk about things they don't want to talk about? It's unfortunate if the person is drinking every night, and that probably does impact the life of the children, which is, again, unfortunate, but you're not a cop. You're not a chemical dependency counselor. You're not their mother. You're not a social worker. You can invite, you can be like, so your kid said you drink every night, and I just want to let you know that's what they're saying. And want you to know I'm here as a non-judgmental person. If you want to talk about it, that's fine. But if you don't, it's also fine. But there's these attitudes that people get into where it's like, it's now my job to like make the mom admit she's drinking every night, because then I caught her, and then I'm going to say, ha, I caught you. And it's the patron that wrote in didn't give me any details, so maybe there's a whole reason as to why they're talking about trying to figure out a way to learn more about their clients who are quote unquote poor historians by Googling them.
I would say, from a countertransference perspective, it's an interesting question, which is, what's it like to sit with someone whose story flip-flops or changes?
Right.
And why is that intolerable to you? Because I've had, I don't know if I've told the story, but I had a client who was a compulsive liar, and it just, there was just a new one every session. And the thing I came up with to say was, I look forward to seeing some pictures from that time, or, just put it back on them, because these stories were just getting more and more outrageous. And but it was clearly something in their process. It wasn't saying anything about me that they were choosing to lie to me. And
the fact that you were being lied to doesn't mean anything. It's like it's a like you say, the countertransference is like interesting, right? And you can comment on that. You can just be like, so just to let you know, there are times when you're talking where I get this notion in my head that you're lying to me. I don't know if you are or not, but I don't know. I don't know if you're trying to impress me, or you're trying to push me away, or you don't trust me, or you don't trust people in general, or, or whatever, I just want to throw that out there as like, I don't, as a question that I just don't really know. And that's absolutely relevant therapeutically, because now you're like meta talking about the talking that you guys are participating in. Anyway, so. And
also, I've worked with many poor historians, and sometimes that speaks to their diagnosis.
Yeah.
If they substance abuse, schizophrenia, all these things lead to very poor historians.
Right.
And that if there's something there, they're not telling you, there's probably a reason why.
Right. They either are terribly ashamed, or they don't trust you. And if you're trying to get the information and they detect that, then they're going to be even more concerned about opening up to you,
And not everybody wants to remember everything. That's the interesting part about the terminating process that I've done with art therapy. You bring out all their artwork. And I had a client today who I worked with very long term, and they were looking at their artwork, and they had no memory of some of this stuff. And they were like, I want to put this away. I don't want to remember this.
Right.
I'd forgotten about this. So if something is not active in their consciousness, there's a reason for that.
Right.
And I'm just curious about digging around in there and being like, ha ha.
Right.
Now, yeah.
Yeah. Well, with regards to Googling your client, there is nothing in the ethical codes that says you can't do it. The only thing it really relates to is client autonomy, essentially, in terms of allowing your clients to tell you what they want to tell you rather than you investigating. So that's kind of related. Another is that it can harm treatment, because you could learn something that could make it so that you will have a hard time empathizing with them, or you will be now in a position where you have to lie to them that you didn't Google them, or you have to reveal that you did Google them, and they will be hurt by that, and the treatment will be harmed. So, but that's kind of it's not an automatic, right? And honestly, I'm curious as to why Mochi is now seeing the fly that is flying around. It's a big fly that's buzzing around in my office right now.
If you want to know how to drive Kirk crazy, put a big, huge fly in his office and have him not be able to catch it.
Well, I'm hoping that Mochi gets it.
If it gets very close, she will snap at it.
Good, get it when it comes by. And so it's not an automatic thing that. Anyway, I'm curious as to what you heard in terms of people saying it's wrong to screen your clients.
So this came up, I don't know if you planned on talking about this, but recently it came through our community on several information boards that several therapists have been assaulted on the first session by the same person.
Sexually assaulted. So everybody's worst nightmare. And a lot of questions got flagged about, like, what can I do to protect myself? I think about, like, when I go to the doctor now, so there's some idea that this person was using a fake name. And I thought about when I go to the doctor and I hand over my insurance card, they also ask for ID now to prove that I'm the person. And so I thought, if I ever didn't trust someone, would I ask for their ID as a way to, have evidence of who they were? Another thing that came up in this is, can I Google somebody before I see them? And a lot of people said no. I don't know if I'm going to incriminate myself, but there are times where I have done that. If somebody felt really sketchy to me, sure.
I've looked them up and been like,
so
I don't think this person is a good fit for me.
My take on, and this is a question that obviously is relatively new in our profession, even though Google's been around for almost 20 years or something, but it's our profession takes a long time to figure this sort of stuff out. So it's a relatively new question. So maybe at some point there'll be some other answer. But my take on the ethical codes and of the nuances is that you can absolutely Google, especially to screen, honestly, as long as you are careful about what you click on, and so as to not ruin your ability to have compassion for a client. But honestly, for me, given, I think, the capacity I have for having empathy for clients, I can't imagine seeing anything online that would make it so I couldn't have compassion for somebody, especially given the way that I have just had experience with empathizing and having compassion for people who have very different political views than I do. So, because that's the only thing I can think of in terms of seeing, it's like, oh, they're a white supremacist or something. It's like, if they're in my office, I'm going to listen to them, And so I just can't imagine that it would hinder my ability to treat somebody. Just to go a little bit into that, I've been working closely with some people who have actually been contacted by this person. So there's this man in the Pacific Northwest who is calling female therapists and is making appointments with them, getting into their office, and then sexually assaulting them. There's 2 women who have come forward and made those reports. The police have done nothing, and the the women who were assaulted aren't going to the police themselves because they just don't want the attention or something. I can't remember the exact thing, but so naturally everyone's afraid, and especially people that I've talked to who have been contacted by this person, because there's a name that they're identifying. As women are saying, watch out for this guy. And then I've had supervisees who have actually Googled this person, and this person has an internet presence. This man who's been identified by these 2 women as having sexually assaulted, he has publicly viewable things online,
which talks about his fantasies about assaulting therapists.
right? And so then the therapists go to the police and say, so da 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 da, and the police again do nothing. Again, I don't know the legality. Maybe the police hands are tied or something, but it certainly falls in line with the general discounting of women and of sexual assault in general or something, and at least that's what it's being reported to me as. But so it's quite disappointing that there's all this evidence and all this online evidence, and yet this guy, as the last I heard, is still at large. And how many women don't know about this guy? I mean, the fact that many people do know about his name is kind of surprising, given the fracturing of our private, because these are all private practice therapists who.
I mean, it's spread fast. Yeah. I have rarely seen something show up in so many places.
But how many people aren't on Facebook, or you know what I mean, or just.
And there were people that I reached out, like my personal supervisees, I reached out to individually, and I mean, it felt like such a duty to warn thing that I emailed all my supervisees and said, "This is happening."
Yeah. So I even went to one of my supervisees' offices. She had an intake with a new client and was worried that it might be him. Because the other thing is, like, is that him, or is that a fake a fake picture of him, a fake name, fake picture? And honestly, the guy sounds unhinged. He sounds like he's like actually manic or psychotic or something. I mean, he doesn't seem well. You know, he seems like I mean, how many rapists go online and brag that they like to? How many people rape therapists then go online and create like this profile where they're bragging about raping therapists? You know, it's this really strange profile. But anyway, so I actually went to the office of one of my supervisees to like make sure that this wasn't going to happen, because we were both very concerned that, you know, what if it was him? And it's just so bizarre that there's no apparent resource. Now, maybe something has happened since then in the past couple of weeks. I don't know. Anyway, so the point is that I think that's completely justified in the light of that, or in other circumstances of safety, to Google certain new clients or recent intakes, or I don't know, to make sure that that's not the person, or that person exists in reality. Because when I was talking with my supervisees about this, I was like, okay, well, let's problem solve this. There's got to be a way to like really make sure that these women can feel safe. There's got to be a way, right? And I was thinking, well, I guess you could hire a security guard, but that seems excessive. And then I thought, well, I guess you could one of the things that I came up with was that they send a selfie with today's newspaper or something and their ID. Mm-hmm. So that, because you could ID them once they get to your office, but
it's not too late.
But they're at their, because the way that this guy does it, he just immediately assaults these women. It's not like a long con. He gets in their office and immediately assaults them. So if you're IDing them upon walking into the office, like, well, the game's over at that point. Mm-hmm. So I was thinking, well, I guess you could take a selfie with an ID or something, and maybe that would work, because then at least you would know that they're giving you the right name. Yeah, I mean,
I'm very curious. I think he's using a fake name, correct?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I don't. Maybe you know more than I do, but I don't know. He's using the same name, which is whatever, whether it's fake or real. That's how I know he contacted another one of my supervisees, because she's like, that guy called my group practice and wanted to make an appointment with me, and they told him to go to hell. And so because of the name, you know. So anyway, I think that Googling under those circumstances, but if you're just randomly working with a client and you're just curious about a client, and then you just decide, I think I want to know more about this person, and you Google them, because there's no clinical reason to do so. There's I can't
It would
think.
be like, would you follow them home? Like, I wonder how they're doing.
Yeah.
You know, would you follow them home from the grocery store? I mean, I think it's kind of the same thing. Like, you're just looking for information, right?
Right. And that in and of itself is not unethical, but because, like I said, it puts you in a position as of a therapist of either lying to your client about that you don't know certain things. You know, like you Google, like one thing that you could do is you could like Google Street View them and see like where they live, like see what their house looks like or something. And then they could start talking about their house and you're like, I know what your house looks like, but in this moment, I'm going to act like I don't know what your house looks like, you know? And so in that moment, you're essentially lying because you already know what their house looks like. That's a small example, but you could expand on that in terms of like other more provocative things you might know about somebody that you could Google them. The other is that you would have to reveal to them, oh no, I already know what your house looks like because I already Googled you. Like, so both of those circumstances could harm the relationship and therefore harm treatment, which is unethical. And since there's no good reason to Google them, then you couldn't justify it if there was a complaint. If a serial sexual rapist is on the loose in Seattle and you have Googled someone prior to meeting with them to make sure that they're not this serial rapist, that can be upheld as a reasonable cause to Google someone prior to meeting them at the risk of learning something that could compromise your relationship with somebody. Plus, the other thing is that I'm telling supervisees is go ahead and Google people and just tell them when they walk into your office, just so you know, there's this person who's assaulting therapists, and so I actually Googled you just to make sure that you're who you are, and this is what I saw. I saw that you have a Tumblr page, and I looked just briefly at it, but I just wanted to make sure that you are who you were, just and I hope that's okay with you. But I'll never do it again now that I know that it's you and not this other person.
I will. So, has a client ever told you that they Googled you?
Absolutely. Well, one, I'm, highly Googleable. And people will say, yeah, I got, someone gave me your name and really, I wonder how many clients don't Google us.
Yeah. I mean, I've had a client go one step further. Maybe I've told this story before. This was back when you couldn't shut down who your friends were on Facebook and you couldn't make your picture, you couldn't make your first thing private the way you can now or whatever. Anyways, they said that they went through all my friends on Facebook and like tried to assess something about me.
Yeah.
Obviously this is a client who's addressing all kinds of boundary issues.
Right.
But also their assumptions were totally off, and that was really interesting.
Right. And because I'm so Googleable, and worse, if you listen to every episode of this podcast, you would learn in every episode a little bit more about me personally. It does make my job as a therapist a little bit more difficult given the style of therapy that I like to do.
Right. So you find that people know stuff about you.
Yeah. And I have to navigate that. For some people, they don't care. There's certain therapists like my friend Bob. He's a therapist. He comes on the podcast sometimes. He doesn't care about people knowing things about him. He's just kind of an open book in general. He's just like, I don't really care. But the style of therapy I like to do, I like it when clients are not distracted by details about me. And so, and to that end, I've always refrained from saying certain things on the podcast about my personal life.
We both carry big secrets.
Yeah.
And we know what they are.
Yeah.
But the listeners do not.
That's right. And so, because any client can be a listener and any listener could be a potential client later on, So, but the clients that I have had who do listen to the podcast, I have found a way to navigate it. Let's just put it that way. Because the relationship that we have as client therapists is so much deeper and more, I don't know, just more real than.
And you edit this podcast. I mean, you take out all of the big mistakes. So
right.
People don't know just how crazy it gets in here.
How many secrets that we reveal about our lives. And then I go back and edit it out. Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, so.
And I will say too, I did have there are a couple of therapy scams going on where like people are like, I'd like to see you and I'll pay you in advance. And then, you deposit the check and then they demand it back and it was a bad check. And so,
really?
Yeah. So I did have an experience where somebody came to me and they were like, I want to see you and I'll pay you in advance. And I was like, yeah. Can you tell me a little bit more about what's going on? And when they came in, it turned out they were a real person. And when they came in, they were like, yeah, why did you give me the 3rd degree like that? And I was like, well, there are these scams. And I thought you were.
So how does it work? They give you a check and then.
How does it work? They send you a check in advance. You deposit it. It's a bad check. And then then they don't come and they say, you need to send me the money back. And
it's before the check bounces.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, I could see that working a lot. I bet you a lot of therapists don't necessarily know the timeline on whether or not a check would bounce or not. Yeah, that's interesting.
And
You'd have to do it pretty fast, though. You know what I mean? Like.
Yeah, I know several people that have fallen for it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
How much money do they ask for?
Like 4 sessions or.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
It must be a very effective scam because it's gone around many, many times.
It seems weird though because it seems like you'd have to give out at least a PO box, which is associated with a real human, right? I mean, you're mailing unless it's a PayPal thing, like.
No, you're mailing a bad check. You could write any fake address on that. It's a fake check.
But then when you send the check back to them,
where does it go?
Unless it's a PayPal or something, it just seems
right.
Like,
I don't know.
I wonder how they manage that. Must be some way of doing that, I guess. Or the therapists don't follow through, or the cops don't care, or something.
Or it's not enough money to go to small claims court, or
right.
I don't know. Anyways, I know people have fallen for it.
Yeah. While we're on the topic, another thing that I've heard from women therapists, maybe we've talked about this before. Is that some creep men will get off by talking about sexual topics with therapists over the phone.
Oh yeah, the intake, yeah.
So they will call and they'll say, so I saw your website, I just thought you might be a good therapist. Is it okay if I just ask you a few questions to make sure you're the right therapist for me? And, especially novice therapists are like, yes, absolutely. I'd love to answer your questions. What do you have, And there's nothing wrong with that because people will do that. But what these creep men will do is exploit that. And they will say, well, I've been having some issues with sexuality and I'm a little ashamed of it. Is it okay if I just, ask you a couple questions about that? And the therapist is like, yeah, sure. And then meanwhile, he just slowly starts to descend into more and more sexual talking and presumably masturbating while he's doing it. And at some point, the female therapist is starting to feel uncomfortable and like, this feels like a lot. We've been talking for 20 minutes now. Like this seems a little excessive, but I really want to be open and I really want to get a client and I really want to be non-shaming. So, and I've got time, so I'll listen a little bit more. And then at some point they're just like, okay, well, I guess I guess I have to go now. And then they hang up and then they talk to me about it. And over time, this happened enough times where I just started telling all my new supervisees, like, by the way, if this ever happens, you'll probably, now that I've told you, you'll probably be able to tell, and just immediately either hang up and tell the person to go to hell or ask if they want to make an appointment, just be like, so, and then talk with me, but there's nothing wrong with saying, because if you're having trouble differentiating, like, is this person for real or are they not? Just say like, so just let you know, I don't do phone sessions, and and if you have any other questions, I'd be glad to answer them. But I do have to go right now, and if you would like to make an appointment, feel free to email me or make the appointment now. But I have to go. There's nothing wrong with drawing that boundary.
Yeah, I mean, any intake conversation that's going over 5 or 10 minutes, too. Like the idea that someone would feel like they deserve that much of your time.
Right. And some therapists do that as a matter of practice.
Mm-hmm.
They will say, and I give free 25-minute sessions so that you can see if you like me or not. I occasionally get requests for that, and I'm like, nope, I don't do that. You have to. I don't give out free time, probationary time.
We've talked about this before. I'd be fascinated to see the statistics on what percentage of women do it and what percentage of men. I feel like women feel like they have to do it.
Totally. And I don't agree with that. I think, and therapists in general, having said that, when I first started out, I did do it because I was so desperate for clients when I first started out. But after, a couple of years, plus the other thing is I found most people, I never had a situation, and I never even heard of a situation where someone did a 25-minute session with someone and they were like, well, you're the 5th person on my list, and so I'll let you know if I choose you or not. It's much more frequent that they've basically chosen you, and they're just not sure. And if they can get 25 minutes for free, then they'll do it, but they usually will hire you, if they make it all the way to your office and meet you in all likelihood. Now, having said that, I always tell people that it's always best to shop around and really make sure, but people rarely do that. But yeah, absolutely. I am frequently trying to cheerlead novice therapists, women and men alike, to value their service and value their the amount of education they've been through, because interns, you're begging for clients. You're just like, please, can I please have a client, and please, even though you're not paying me, can I please volunteer my time to make your agency money? And these therapists graduate with this attitude that they aren't worth anything, and and it takes them a while to realize, wait, I spent $60,000 and 3 or 4 years of my life in graduate school. I am a highly trained mental health professional who provides a very needed service that is a very valuable thing in our society, and I deserve to get paid, I guess. It's just totally different way of thinking. Interns just feel like they're lowest of the low. They're lower than a McDonald's employee because they don't even get paid. You know what I mean? They're just like, I don't have any rights, and I need to beg people. I need to give pro bono and free sessions, and I'm just like, you are worth getting paid for this job.
Right. I think it's interesting around payment that there's a respect that comes with that. Like, so I've had a couple people come through the group space, and it was interesting. The one that was going to do all sliding scale, nothing ever got started. And I think her net was too big, what she was trying to do. But also, one of the things that attracts people to our work is when you say my service is valuable, and I'm probably going to help you. So trust me on that.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's heartbreaking, really, to see people not only not value their service, but think that they're like more worthless than worthless or something, and to be treated that way too, kind of.
Well, I'm always surprised. Like, some people start private practices, and I'm like, right out of school, and I'm like, wow, you really think you're ready? And other people I know wait like 15 years, and they're still like, I think I need more training. And I'm like, no, really, you're ready.
Yeah.
Go right ahead.
Yeah. And I know people who start practices right after graduation who are fantastic, and do really good work. And in some ways, private practice is easier than working in an agency because of the typical complexity of a private practice client. But anyway. So, Rebeeca, any final thoughts before you...
I have an idea for when I come back.
Okay.
I would like us to start a new segment where we take a TV psychologist and we pick apart a session. So things I want to do, people I want to look at are Parker Posey impersonating a psychiatrist on the new Lost in Space is amazing.
Oh, is it good?
It's terrifying. She's a psychopath. And so what she thinks therapists do, it's fantastic. And then there's this family session at a rehab center in the second season of This Is Us, where I think the family therapist is completely out of line. And I'd love to talk through that session with you.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Let's do it.
All right.
Were you the one who wanted to talk about The Expanse?
I did want to talk about The Expanse. I loved it so much that I bought the third season so I could see it immediately, so I wouldn't have to wait.
Is it on? It's on Amazon, I believe, right?
It's on Sci-Fi, and it did not get picked up for a third season or a fourth season.
Right.
And so I saw a rumor on Twitter that Netflix had picked it up, and I think it'd be perfect for Netflix because they clearly have a big enough budget to keep going.
And Netflix, I think, has even stated that they want to specialize in sci-fi stuff.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Which is kind of...
They know their market, my God.
Yeah.
People who like to stay in all day.
So just a little bit about The Expanse is that it's a sci-fi show that's on Sci-Fi, the channel. And it's...
SYFY.
SYFY, which is based on a series of novels called The Expanse by James S.A. Corey. And the TV show is developed by Mark Fergus and Hawk Ostby, who also worked on Children of Men.
Terrifying movie. And
Iron Man. I liked it. I liked it a lot. The second season sort of lost me a little bit. The first season I was like totally riveted. But as soon as they started going into some of the more, I don't know, like bigger plot stuff, it felt, I don't know. I just felt like, oh, is that where we're going? Like and I don't want to spoil it, but it gets kind of, the first number of episodes, it's all kind of grounded in this mystery, but it's also kind of grounded in just a very possible future.
So the things that are super amazing about it, there's full-on class warfare in the future.
Right.
I don't think that's ever been addressed in any sci-fi show, at least. Maybe in some movies you get a sense of like the class divide.
Right.
But the way that they deal with it is so great.
Right. Right. So they have these belters who are the working class. These are the laborers who work in the asteroid belt, and they are miners and people who work on outposts. Think of like the Wild West or something in the American Wild West. And
it reminds me a lot of like any of those Five Corners movies, like movies about early New York, like that kind of dock worker, port politics, what comes in, what goes out, what's the underground economy.
Right. Because you got like gangsters and the government and the police don't have that much power compared to the gangsters and stuff and the capitalists. And the workers are being exploited by the capitalists, and the people who live on Earth are generally pretty rich.
Well, in the first season, they're rich. In the second season, you start to meet the underclass, and you learn that some huge amount of the population is on the dole, that there's no jobs for anybody. And the population is like 30 million people. And
30 billion?
They say, I said million, but I meant billion.
Yeah.
And everything is polluted, and so there's just the class you meet at first is this very upper class
interesting
politicians, And then so there are colonists on Mars who are humanoid humans, but their culture has been so separated that they have their own identity.
Right.
And in the second season, one of the Martians comes to Earth and kind of learns the hard truths.
Yeah. So the people, men and women who work in the asteroid belt, are not only working in pretty bad conditions, like miners and this kind of thing, but they also, because there's very little gravity in that part of the solar system, their bodies have been changed, and so when they come to Earth, they have a hard time living. They have a time breathing and walking because their muscles have atrophied and their bones have changed, and I think they're elongated because they know that when you're in the space station for a long time, you grow a few inches because you're just stretched out more because gravity isn't like keeping you compact. There's all these elements of capitalism and oppression and politics and classism issues. It's really interesting, and it's probably, and I'm not saying anything new here because this is what a lot of our fellow sci-fi nerds are saying, is that this is perhaps the most real sci-fi production that's ever been made.
Yeah, so it's the most racially diverse. It has the fewest gender divides. There are women in all levels of power, women of color. And then my favorite character, it's pretty sure he's the first male former sex worker in a sci-fi show.
Meaning he was a sex worker in real life?
He was a sex worker. The character was a sex worker as a child or as a young adult, and is now a laborer, space renegade.
Interesting.
But the way that his history as a sex worker gets referred to is some of the best lines on TV. Like, it just makes me so happy. So
that main guy that is sort of the brooding guy?
The muscle on the ship, the guy that talks about being from Baltimore. I'm spacing.
Oh, interesting.
Atlas?
I don't think I've gotten that part yet.
Some geeky person is going to call me out on this. Atlas. What's his name?
I don't know. But so, it's super. So not only is it real in terms of diversity, but in terms of the actual science, it's also extremely real as well. I remember watching Battlestar Galactica, the new one, and loving how accurate it was in terms of science fiction. But even in that show, they cut corners and this kind of thing to appease audiences. This show, it doesn't, especially at least the episodes I've seen, it doesn't explain things. It doesn't.
No.
It doesn't say like. So just to let you know, all those other TV shows and movies you've watched have presented space in a wrong way. But in this, they're just like, look, we're just going to show you what it would actually be like in space. And you're just going to have to live with it and be confused if you don't understand how physics works.
Well, also in the plot development, little things will happen that won't make any sense at the time. And then like 3 to 5 episodes later, it pans out like what that little clue was about. And so in terms of storytelling, I'm just like totally wrapped in it because I catch those moments like, what the hell was that? And then several episodes later, it's put into perspective.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many there's so many rich characters and that are not necessarily connected. And you're like, and they sort of visit each one of these zones and these characters and it's in the mystery, the heart of the whole plot mystery is pretty complex and laid out interestingly. Other things that they point out or that they show us that is good sci-fi that I appreciate is that there is less protection from cosmic rays as soon as you get outside of Earth's protection from rays, not only our magnetosphere, but our atmosphere. And so there's more cancer in space. People who spend a lot of time traveling or in the asteroid belt have a lot more mutations and problems, you know, and they live shorter time spans. Also, there's no sound in space. And of course, this is one of the things that most people understand is that there's no sound in space. And when you watch Star Wars and you see a thing explode and they give you an explosion sound, that doesn't make any sense that you would have that. And so in this, and also I believe in Battlestar Galactica, they did a similar thing. Also, go ahead.
There's this amazing language, too, that the Belters speak. So this idea that all of these people have come off of Earth from all of these different zones. And so there's this crazy Creole of like 50 different languages.
Right.
Which maybe they do translations the first episode, but after that, you just have to figure it out. And I've seen a little segment of, they're like, yeah, that's what it would be like to be there. You wouldn't know what was happening.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like Chinese and English and Russian and French and Spanish.
And he put some Hebrew in there. I geeked out on the linguist that put it together. And
interesting. Another thing that they portray well is that it takes a really long time to travel in space, you know, which makes sci-fi writing really hard, you know, and that's why all or most other sci-fi stuff, they have some kind of faster than light travel or some kind of instant travel thing. And because if you got to get from one planet to the next, in real life, it would take forever. I mean, they're just existing in this story between Earth and Jupiter or something. So it's just like, it's not even like all the way out to say Pluto or something, you know, it's just within a certain zone of the solar system, and travel takes a long time. So you'll have, like, in the first season, I remember the main characters that get on, that are sort of the renegades from that ship that blew up, they're trying to survive. They're getting from point A to point B. And there's like a few episodes where they're just traveling, you know, it's like they're trying to get from one asteroid to another asteroid or something. And it's taking like several episodes and weeks of actual travel time. And they have to think about oxygen, and they have to think about heat, and and the other thing that they do really well is when you would travel in space, you know, unless you had some sort of warp drive, which, you know, people might not ever have, is you accelerate toward the target. So you just turn your engines on and you just, you know, blast. And so as you're going toward the target, so if you're going from Earth to Mars, you're accelerating at a speed of 1g. So you always have gravity to depend on. So as you're accelerating towards Mars, you're going faster and faster and faster and faster at a rate of 1g, so that on the bottom side, there's always gravity, essentially. And then at a certain point, so that if you just turned off the engines, you'd crash into Mars, because you're going like, by that point, like a 100,000 miles an hour or something like that. So you have to slow down. But if you slow down too fast, you will become pancakes so you turn the ship around and you decelerate at 1g, and then you again have gravity again. And so you're decelerating 1g, but now you have gravity, I think anyway, it all works out. And so you accelerate and then you decelerate at 1g, and they explain that, or they depicted that in the show. You know, they're like, okay, they even have like this cool language around it. It's like, okay, we're doing a flip 1g decel or something, and you see them lose gravity for a little bit. They turn it around, and then and then they also have a way of explaining how they would survive high g acceleration, that they have to inject that substance into their body so that it makes it so that their body can withstand the high Gs. It's a little bit of a hand-wavy tech, like, well, in the future we'll have some kind of injection that can, but at the same time, like, it's this super intense, painful thing that people don't necessarily survive.
No, but there's a lot of talking about hating space and hating Earth, hating Mars.
Right. The other awesome thing that this show has that only Battlestar Galactica had is nuclear weapons.
Yes.
So, Star Wars, it's always like they basically have World War II technology in terms of weapons. You have like these lasers that are basically like,
A laser.
that are basically like projectile guns. And then you have these missiles, which are basically like torpedoes that you would have in World War II. But, obviously, even in World War II, we had devices that had massive destruction potential that are, fairly easy to construct once you have technology, especially spacefaring peoples. And so in this show, they have nukes, and they show how easy it is to program a missile that has a nuke on it, and you just send it towards your target, and it just has to get near the target, and goodbye target. You know what I mean? Like there's no shield that's going to protect you. There's no evading it because the missile goes very fast, especially in space because there's no resistance, and you don't have to decel that. You can accelerate the entire time. And how horrific it is, and how just how you'd have to think about, okay, well, obviously they'd have nukes in the future, so how would they deal with that whole thing? You know what I mean?
There's also been serious global warming, and New York is surrounded by very large walls.
Oh, really?
And
I think I remember that.
Statue of Liberty has kind of a moat around it.
Oh.
It took me a couple episodes to figure out what that was.
Interesting.
But that's also, Blade Runner has that too, which is in the second one. There's this big wall around LA.
Right. Exactly. Also, the things in space move very fast in comparison to each other. So whenever you watch Star Trek or whatever, and you see two ships that meet in space, it's like, again, it looks like World War II, where you have two ships in the middle of the Pacific that just sort of meet. But actually, two ships in space, the chance of them moving in relation to each other's velocities is extremely unlikely. That it's much more likely that you wouldn't even see it. It would just blast past you at 10 times the speed of a bullet, and you'd be like, what was that? Because things are moving pretty fast in space, and so they depict that as well. Then the last thing I'll say is that they make the ships look what ships might actually look like in the future. Because again, even with Battlestar Galactica, they make the ships look cool with wings and with aerodynamics, and with smooth edges and stuff. And if you look at the space station, the International Space Station,
Pretty lumpy.
Yeah, the thing doesn't look sexy at all. It's just this very, but it's practical because you don't need to make it aerodynamic, one, and two, you can just expand it in any direction you want because it doesn't have to withstand wind or anything. And so their ships kind of look like that. Like the ships don't look sexy or cool.
Well, also when ships blow up, there's a whole nother second problem of the shrapnel. Right. And that's really interesting. I don't think I've ever seen a show that...
Well, Gravity, the movie, kind of had a little bit of that.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, absolutely. Like in Star Wars, when something blows up, it's just this fireball, but in Gravity and in Expanse, you realize like you've just expelled like billions of bullets that are now flying out, I just think that's really great.
Well, and the coolest invention for me is the gravity boots, that the way that they deal with these moments of not having gravity is they have kind of ruby slippers, but they're gigantic metal boots, and it seems that there's some kind of gravity device in the heel. So that's just a really, because
I think it's magnetic.
It's magnetic.
Yeah.
Because in Star Trek, it was like, how the hell?
Right. Because one, how do you film something that is constantly no gravity? It's really hard to film something that looks like that. And two, how do you tell stories when everyone's just kind of floating around? It's just like, we're in a studio in LA. We'll just say we've invented some gravity machine, But there are a couple things that are a little irksome to me. Is that the thrusters? And I like this to some extent, but in shows when they're trying to depict real orientation of ships. You know, they have those little thrusters that will kind of right the ship. You know what I'm talking about? Like you can see this little pss, pss, pss,
This is the geekiest conversation I've ever
Yeah.
had. I just want to say that.
Yeah. And that's better than having a ship that just rights itself naturally, which of course it wouldn't do. But actually the way that we actually right ships in space is by using gyros that are inside, that are actually more efficient than using fuel to orient a ship. So, there's that. Also, another thing that bothers me about this show, that bothers me about a lot of sci-fi shows, is that they have holograms that are, like standing holograms that are just like in the room, like you're watching a TV show or communicating with someone, and there's just this hologram just suspended in midair, 3D hologram, right? That is a very, very difficult thing to create. My geek mind, I don't imagine.
You don't see it.
I don't see that being at the same timeline as what they're proposing.
How about the phone that's like a clear plastic bag? You think that's on the horizon?
The which?
Their phones, they're like these little plastic clear. You think we're gonna get those?
Yeah, I think having it's like a clear piece of glass that you can see through, but it also has things. Yeah, I think they actually have some of that technology now, but I actually don't like that because if you can see the background through your heads up, I mean, unless it's a heads up display that you're trying to actually impose on an actual world, like Google Glass or whatever.
Which never took off.
Right. I think I want an opaque piece of glass because I want, like, imagine if you had a book and every page was see-through. Like, it'd be a little harder to read, right? You want it, if you're trying to read something, it needs to have a opaque background, but it looks cooler to have a piece of glass. The
gear is cool in this show.
Huh?
The gear.
Super cool. But the last piece of gear that I don't like is that the helmets that they wear. This is common to all sci-fi shows that are being filmed. Is you notice that they have lights inside the helmet pointing at their face, because as you're filming, you're trying to film these astronauts in space. You have to be able to see their face through the glass. And so they design these helmets, that the TV producers design these helmets with lights that are pointing toward the face. But imagine that. Imagine you have a helmet on that have lights shining into your eyes that are right next to your face. Like, why would you have that? That would be awful, and of course, they don't have that at the space station, because it would be totally impractical, but you need it because you have these characters that you're filming that you need to be able to see their facial expressions. So
on the space station, when they do spacewalks, can you see their faces in those helmets? I
No.
always see like the reflection of the spaceship
No. One, because they don't have those lights that are pointing at their face, because that would be weird. I mean, imagine being in your car and you have lights just, firing at your face. The other reason is because they have shields over their, commonly over their face, because of the bright sunlight that is just blasting. The sun isn't going through the atmosphere at that point, and so it's just super intense and could just fry your face and particularly your eyes, if you don't have some kind of shield. That's why, like, all those pictures of those guys walking on the moon,
right?
You don't see their faces,
yeah,
because their face would burn off if if they revealed that. But anyway. So those are just little nitpicky things, but overall, I think everyone agrees by far this is the most accurate science fiction that's ever been made for TV.
And the characters are so deeply flawed.
Yes,
I love a deeply flawed character.
And interesting. And the main character, the guy who the private investigator or the investigator or whatever, like, it's sort of like Game of Thrones. Actually, now I think about it, where it's just like I keep hoping he's going to get his break. And then it just gets worse and worse for him. Like, he just keeps running into problems where, everything's sort of stacked against him all the time. But he's like that film noir guy where it's like, wow.
Yeah, it's very like, I feel like I'm watching the Maltese Falcon or something. Or
Right.
not, yeah, like, not the Maltese Falcon. Mochi.
Is Mochi gonna vomit or something?
No, this is what happens when you have some long hairs.
Oh.
He's very film noir, Humphrey Bogart.
Yeah.
Drinks too much, loves women too much.
Yeah. And he has a kind of a partner who is looking out for him or something. And
But is young and naive. His partner is a rookie.
Yeah.
Trying too hard.
Right. What do you think of the South? I think she's South Asian woman who's like is she like the president of?
No, I have compared her to Henry Kissinger. Like, not an elected official, an appointed official that knows everything that's happening. That's the most powerful person in the room. But you only know that if you're on the inside.
Okay.
She progresses into the greatest character on the show and has the best speeches.
Interesting.
She also has the best jewelry.
Yeah, she has fantastic.
And all of her outfits are amazing.
Fantastic
And there's
outfits.
like 3 or 4 outfit changes a show.
And her house is fantastic.
Yes.
Like whenever they go to Earth, at least in the first season, they go to this woman who is a Henry Kissinger kind of character, and the contrast in the sets, it's like these beautiful, huge homes with nature around that I'm guessing is like relegated to the rich neighborhoods or something. And very fancy people with fancy things. And you go out to the belt and everything's real grungy and
no one changes their clothes in the belt.
Yeah. Dirty and, hardworking. But there's something about her accent that drives me nuts. Like I if I was the director, I'd be like, okay, you have an accent. Just lean into the accent. I feel like she's trying not to have an accent or something. Do you know what I'm saying?
I don't have that reaction to her.
Like, I like her power and I like the writing of her character or something, but her voice is so deliberate.
Well, I think for me, it's representing her status as a politician.
Oh.
A very calculated, that's the impression I get over the episodes, is that everything she says is so calculated and so cutting.
Yeah.
It kind of reminds me of kind of New York society where there's just like this weird emphasis on things and things are very clipped.
Oh, really? Interesting. Well, that makes more sense to me because, like, as I was watching, I was like, she's so deliberate in her words, and I'm like,
that's an East Coast thing.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a great show, and I also think I stopped watching it because I ran out of access to the season. So
that's why I purchased the next season.
How do you purchase it?
You buy it.
Like on Amazon?
Yeah.
Or, okay. So you buy it on Amazon.
And then you have to wait. It's like olden times. Like you get one episode. I'm watching it almost in real time.
As it comes out on Sci-Fi, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I did that with the Americans with the fifth season. So I discovered the Americans and watched on Amazon seasons 1 through 4 at could binge, and then season 5 started and I could only watch 1 episode a week.
I know, it's terrifying. Well, I had to stop watching The Americans because someone got murdered every episode in such a personal, brutal way.
It's so brutal.
I also had to stop watching Jessica Jones because I was going to have a nervous breakdown.
Yeah, that show, I don't know if it gets worse or better, but even the first 2 episodes, I was like, I feel
Dirty.
Really terrible. Like,
I had nightmares. I was like, this is too much.
Maybe it's bad for therapists to watch because it depicts PTSD and sexual assault and like all sorts of really horrible things, and I wonder if that's an element of that show.
Yeah, it got to me I think I went on to like Kimmy Schmidt or something. It's just like, which is also about PTSD and amazing. But that's a therapist. We should talk about Tina Fey's character on that show.
Oh yeah,
Therapist by day, drunkard by night.
Yeah, that's a hilarious character. Yeah. All right, Rebeeca. Well, next time I talk to you, you'll be this Mediterranean world traveler.
Yes, I'll probably be so thankful to be wearing different clothes than I wore for 2 weeks or 2 months nonstop.
How many outfits are you bringing?
I'm doing the 2 dresses, 2 skirts, 2 pants, 2 pairs of shorts, and 8 shirts.
8 shirts. So is that like 8 outfits? Am I hearing? 8?
Yeah,
Because it's going to be
like,
warm, so you can
Yeah.
you can wear any of those things, right?
Yeah.
So 8 outfits. Yeah, I mean you can do laundry over there,
Yes.
or just go down to the Mediterranean in the
bathe myself
in the blue waters.
It sounds like a movie. Yeah, there's it's going to be hot. I have been to Israel in August, so I know this level of heat. It's the kind of culture where, like, I imagine you sleep from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. and then go back out in it.
Yeah. We have to talk about Camp 10 Trees for just 2 seconds. So
wait a second. I want to introduce this. Yeah. I got to give Kirk a new experience. I got to introduce Kirk to something that he thought was beautiful and life-affirming, and to watch the delight on his face through the whole evening. It was one of those great experiences where you get to treat your friend to something that they didn't know about, and you get to show it to them.
I didn't know you felt that way.
I felt that way.
Yeah, absolutely. So tell us about Camp 10 Trees.
So Camp 10 Trees has been around for 20 years, and it began as a camp for kids of LGBTQ parents, where those kids could go and just be normal. And it's also really affirming of queer culture, and it's now extended to also be a camp for LGBTQ kids. They've got at least 2 summer sessions. And
it started out for parents.
It started out for the kids.
Oh, started out for the kids. Okay.
And they now have a
thing for the parents.
They have a family weekend, I think, for younger kids and their parents. And then they also have, I think, a midwinter break session now as well. But it is super, just imagine a camp for teens and younger kids where you can be your freakiest, queerest, fairiest, drag queeniest, butchiest, non-conformingest self.
Yeah, that was the magic that really touched me, was to think about how in our society you have people who can't be themselves, and that's getting better, but it's still pretty bad, and how bad it was 20 years ago. And to think about a camp where everyone can just be who they want to be and
change who they want to be.
Right. Right.
Try that on. If you want to try something else on, go try that on.
Right. Right. Exactly. And how beautiful that is to me in terms of freedom and fighting back against society, but also bittersweet because camp has to end and they have to go back home, It's but of course it's a good thing it exists, How many kids go to the camp?
I think they don't give out numbers. There's a lot of confidentiality connected to this camp, but I know tons of people that have gone or sent their kids.
They don't even say where it is, right?
No.
Yeah. So it was a fundraising dinner auction for
gay.
Yeah.
It was gay.
Yeah. I asked you because I got the invitation and the day before, and I looked at it and it said dress in your queerest outfit, and I thought, oh, I don't think I have a queer outfit, and so I texted you and I was like, do I need to dress up for this, because I have a suit, but, and you're like, well, do you have, how'd you word it?
I said, do you have a fun tie and a fun pocket square?
Yeah.
By the way, I'm going black on black. And you showed up black on black, which made me, and in a fun tie with a fun pocket square. Right.
So I immediately went to Nordstrom or the next day and tried to find the most fun tie and pocket square, because I've never owned a pocket square in my life, and I have a lot of ties, and I looked at them before going to Nordstrom, but I was like, I don't think any of these are going to cut it, and so I bought a sort of
kind of a pink paisley,
a dusty pink paisley tie that I really love, by the way. It's a beautiful tie, and a dusty pink pocket square. And 2 minutes before getting into my Lyft to come downtown, I had to Google how to put a pocket square.
There's many options.
There's many options, and I went with the funnest option.
Oh.
Which was the floof, I think they call it. But yeah, it was this beautiful night, and there was all these...
And we had fun.
Yeah, and we had some drinks, and there was all this entertainment, and there were things that we were auctioning, and I bought a raffle ticket. And so I have to tell you, so I think I told you this night, but so I go downstairs where all the silent auctions are, and there's all these fun things, and I'm bidding on something. And you got something.
I went often at a silent auction. There'll be an option like if you just want to buy it, pay this amount.
Right.
And there was a print. I wish I knew the name of the artist, but it's C-3PO on his belly in the grass, daydreaming. And I was like, this is so me, because when I was a kid, everybody loved R2-D2, and so because I was Jewish and I had to pick the underdog, I was like, no, I like C-3PO best, which I don't think I really did, but I do think he's become a really endearing character through all the movies. He has many of the best lines. So this idea is like, what does C-3PO do on his downtime? Well, he lies on his belly and daydreams in the grass. So I bought it. It was $40 just to buy it.
I did not know that backstory between you and C-3PO. Now I know what I'm going to get you for Christmas or for your birthday. Sorry. So I'm going around at the different silent auction, and then I go into this other room, and there's all these big ticket items, like, which I'm like, oh, these must be for the regular auction when we start the regular auction. And then there's these kids walking around selling raffle tickets. And one kid walks up to me and he's like, would you like to buy a raffle ticket for $100? And I was like, $100? Are you kidding me? Like, oh, no, I'm okay. And then the kid walks away and I'm thinking, wait, it couldn't be $100 for a raffle ticket. He must mean a raffle ticket to win $100. That's what I thought. So the next kids that came up to me and asked, would you like to buy a raffle ticket? I said, so surely these tickets you're not selling them for $100, right? And they were like, no, we are selling them for, and I'm like, so why? They're like, well, you get to, the way they explained it to me, I walked away thinking that everything in the other room, the big ticket items, were given out to all the lottery or to all the raffle ticket people. So, and I was like, well, how many of these tickets have you sold? And they're like, oh, maybe like 10. And I'm like, so if I buy a ticket, I'm guaranteed to win one of those, maybe 2 of those things in the other room. And I thought, well, that's worth it. I'll pay $100 to guarantee I get one of those big tickets. They had like plane tickets. They had plane tickets. They had, vacations. They had, various different things that were like, $500 value, $2,000 value. And so I bought the ticket thinking everyone who buys a raffle ticket is going to get something, unless suddenly they sell like 500 tickets and then only 30 of us are going to get something. And so I go upstairs to the main auction thinking, well, I'm going to win something because there's only so many raffle tickets. There's only so many things that they're giving out. And so they do the raffle ticket. You were there, and they pull a number out, and it's not my number. It's someone else's number.
And no, it's nobody's number.
No one is claiming it.
No one is claiming it.
And they're really hammering away. They're like, well, go to the registration, figure out who this person is. They waited a good 10 minutes to really make sure they could try to find this person.
An auction buzzkill.
Yeah. And you could really tell, like, oh, they're pretty bummed out that someone's going to be really disappointed that they didn't win. But in my head, I'm like, well, they'll get whatever isn't claimed. You know what I mean? Like, who cares? So then they go on and they're like, okay, well, go on. And they put their hand in the thing and they pull out my number.
Now, watching Kirk's face during this thing, they're like 2. And he's like, yes.
Yeah.
And then they said 0. And he was like, oh. And then was it 4?
Yeah.
And the look on your face, because you told us you were going to win, but I didn't understand that you didn't understand the premise of what was going on.
Right.
So the real premise is that you buy this $100 ticket, and if your number gets called, you get to pick any of the high ticket items,
right,
without having to go through the regular auction process.
Right. You don't, and people are bidding,
thousands. Things are going for thousands of dollars.
Yeah. And so for $100, you basically get thousands of dollars worth of something. And so when I won, I was like, oh, great. But I'm like, well, this just means I get a pick first. That's all that I thought. I was like, well, so I didn't think it was very special. I thought it was cool that I won first and I get to pick. I get the first pick, but I didn't realize that I'm the only winner. Like I'm the only person who won. And it didn't occur to me until, I don't know, like an hour later or something. I'm like, wait, how come they're not pulling out any more of those raffle tickets? And you or someone else said, because they only pull one number out.
That's why it's called a golden ticket, Kirk. Did you not get that famous movie reference? There's only one golden ticket.
Well, the other totally dumb thing about me was, even though I was sure I was going to win, which I wasn't necessarily going to win for sure, I hadn't chosen what I didn't realize that I needed to pick right there on stage. Like so what do you want?
So Kirk, just imagine Kirk getting accosted by a drag queen at this point. He's like doing his best, but there was a lot going on.
Yeah. So they're all like, pick something. And I'm like, what? Like I just didn't understand I was so just dumb and like out of my element that, and I just thought of the first thing that came to mind.
This was Kirk's first time at the rodeo.
Yeah, apparently. And so I picked Treehouse.
Which is what you wanted.
Which is what I wanted, but I hadn't thought of, it was basically the first thing that came to my head, and which was lucky because it probably would have been the one I would have chosen anyway. In Washington State and maybe other places, there's different outfits where they build these elaborate tree houses that are like cabins up in the trees, and they all have different looks to them, and you can stay in them. And I've always wanted to stay in them. I've gone to the website, but it's always been so expensive. It's like hundreds of dollars a night, and it's just like, you got to stay there at least 2 nights. Do you really want to spend like $1,000, staying in just a tree house? Like it just seemed excessive, But for $100 raffle ticket, that's what I got.
Well worth it.
Yeah. So, and then I also won a burlesque lesson. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to learn how to do burlesque.
I think this will be an excellent time for you.
Yeah.
I can't wait to learn your burlesque name.
So, whoa, the burlesque name.
Yeah.
Oh, like Mr. something or
What's the name of the sandwich with the egg on top when your dad cooked a hamburger? It's rice, hamburger, egg on top.
Oh, well, in American, you would call it Salisbury steak, but in Hapa, you would call it Loco Moco.
That is your burlesque name.
You
are Mr. Loco Moco.
Oh my God. Yeah. Burger. I got rice foundation, burger on top, smothered in gravy with an egg on top. Japanese Americans love to put an egg on top.
I know.
Japanese, it's always like always an egg. Like just top it off with an egg. That'll make everything better. But so listeners out there, if you want to donate to this wonderful organization,
Camp 10 Trees.
Camp 10 Trees.
People come from all over the country to go to it.
Yeah. And your donations pay for a very humble organization that puts, I'm guessing, the majority of those funds towards the kids, and making it so kids can attend for free, essentially. Mm-hmm. And
no kid is turned away from that camp.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
They've never turned anyone away.
And they also have like whole siblings, like groups. Mm-hmm. Like there were 3 siblings who talked on the stage. They get to go with their younger siblings and stuff, and so it was really special to see all that. So yeah, Camp 10 Trees, and I think, Rebeeca, we have started a new tradition.
I think this is going to be our thing. I'm so excited because we haven't had a thing.
Yeah.
And I can't get in on the other things.
Yeah.
So this is going to be our thing. You got a karaoke guy. I mean, I'm never going to
really?
move in on that thing.
Well, you're going to be at our live show.
No, because I'm away.
Oh, you're going to be away all the way until then?
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
Welcome to my life.
When do you get back? Late August or something?
Yeah.
Oh, man. Well, you'll be at the next one. You'll be at the 11-year one.
Yeah.
Okay.
This one goes to 11.
That's
a movie reference.
That is a movie reference. Well, thanks for joining me, Rebeeca.
It's always a pleasure. I had to come one last time before I leave the United States of America.
Yeah. Ooh, that'll be nice. You won't have to deal with any American politics.
I won't be able to read a newspaper for 72 days.
When I traveled in Europe, I made a whole backstory that I was a Canadian.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if I told you this. So my son is at an English-speaking school in Barcelona right now. And he said that when a new kid shows up, all the kids gather around and they say, "Don't speak. We're going to try and guess where you're from."
Oh, no.
And they guessed that he was Russian, which is interesting because genetically I'm half Russian, half Polish, and his donor is German.
He looks like he could be Russian a little bit, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. But I was like, I don't know if it's better to be tagged as an American or a Russian, but he didn't get tagged as an American.
Yeah, I think that's a win.
That felt like a win to me. That felt like a parenting win.
Definitely a win. I mean, if they gather around and say, "Oh, definitely American," yeah. I mean, that's a big mom fail at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, well, he picked up on the metrosexual I guess everything in Spain is super tight.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. So are you going to tell people you're from America when people ask?
Marca. I wonder if you say if you're from Seattle, it's any better. But I have heard that they think Trump's an idiot and they think we all voted for him.
Yeah.
So I do feel like it's important. I'll need to learn how to say 3 million votes in like 5 or 6 different languages.
Yeah. I'm from Seattle, which 85% of our city voted for the other person. Something like that. I was shocked by that, actually, because in my head, I always just figured like, well, I don't know, half of every city is Republican, you know, or at best you're going to be like 50.
But this is not an average Republican candidate. I mean, the idea that like you could have sexually assaulted women very recently and be quite public and not ashamed about it and get elected and have no, he's not a very Seattle candidate.
Yeah. 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 So, yeah. And when I went to Europe, I had this Canadian backstory ready to go, but never really had to use it. And the occasional moments when people actually asked, I was just like, fuck it. Yeah, I'm from America. And one taxi driver in Paris was like, so Americans hate French people, right? And I'm like, no, you know, because I thought French people were delightful, and everyone I met who actually has been to France are always like that. The stereotype that French people are assholes is not true. And
now that we're surrounded by such assholes, they probably doesn't seem like such assholes,
right? And so I said, no, we don't. I don't think that anyway. He's like, you're probably just saying that like Americans they really do hate French people, right? They really hate French people. I'm like, no. And he's like, you're just being nice. And I just thought, oh man. Anyway, so
what's your wish for me on my trip?
I wish that you have a transformational experience. I wish you bond with your family. I'm sure that'll happen. I wish you have at least one moment where you're truly connecting with the history of our race, or our, the human race, because they're so ancient, these locations, and actual stone masonry that you can touch that were put there thousands of years ago, and the people who have come through there, and the stories, and of course Seattle has Native American stories, but there's there's not physical evidence of it, around. And that's how I feel when I, now that you're listening to this podcast, it's just like those people actually were there, just to think about that emperor walked these streets.
He planted cabbage right here.
Right.
And how many people are going to be geeky enough to know that this used to be a cabbage plantation?
Right. Yeah. Well, you got to get a cabbage dish when you're there.
I wonder if they're not known. The Croatians aren't known for cabbage, but I'll look.
Yeah. I like cabbage.
I like cabbage too. I like a good slaw. I like it raw. I'll eat cabbage leaves.
Yeah. Gets a bad rap sometimes.
It's very good for you.
Yeah. I mean, it's often accompanied in Kahlua pork, for example.
Yes. Yeah.
Anyway, so have a great trip.
Thank you.
Mochi, I hope, survives with whoever
She's going to be with a lovely family.
Okay. And please take care of yourself out there, because why should people take care of themselves?
You want to travel the world one day.